Will we be able to see his slide deck
Yeah,
on our
they're
computer?
going to share the screen.
I see, okay.
Good evening, and welcome to the special meeting where we're conducting our superintendent finalist interviews for the Board of Education. This meeting is now called to order. Mr. Walker, can we please have a roll call?
Dr. Blau,
Here.
Ms. Heinrich,
Here.
Mr. Rich,
Here.
Ms. Fox,
Here in Farmington Hills.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
I myself am here, and Ms. Williams.
I'm here.
All present and accounted for.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Rich?
I move that we approve the agenda for this special meeting as presented.
Motion to approve the agenda made by Mr. Rich, supported by Mr. Walker. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Next, there are no president announcements other than we are welcoming Dr. Rudolph for our interview for the first night, first of three. Welcome and congratulations on making it to being a finalist for Superintendent of Farmington Public Schools.
Thank you.
We're very glad to have you. We are appreciative of your interest in Farmington Public Schools. Today we will start off with a 15-minute presentation. You are asked to prepare a 15-minute presentation on a topic of your choice. After we conclude that presentation, the Board of Education will open up to ask you questions.
Okay.
At that point, we will end the interview and start with public comment.
Okay.
I think at this point we are ready to proceed. So Dr. Rudolph, when you're ready to start your presentation. And also all board members received Dr. Rudolph's 100-day plan. Yes. And so if you see me looking down, I'm likely reviewing this as well. Thank you, Dr. Rudolph, and you can start at any time.
Okay.
Do we have to listen with our headphones?
No.
Okay.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, and I'll be able to give you a 5-minute warning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, as I was preparing for this interview, I decided to look at equity and inclusion as a roadmap to achievement. I chose this topic in line with the 2021 FPS Board priorities. It's commendable to see that 3 of the 5 priorities are focused on equity and inclusion, and those are fostering a positive district culture and climate that incorporates, that number 3, I can't see up here, there we go, incorporates equity and inclusion, recruiting, hiring, developing, and retaining high-quality staff that reflects diversity, and ensuring equitable practices. Equity is a key component in a successful school district. An equitable education system empowers all students to acquire the knowledge and skills needed to become productive citizens. Equity not only ensures that all students are engaged, but it leads to higher student achievement, which yields improved social and economic outcomes. The key word there is empower. We want to always make sure that we're empowering our students to learn, empowering our teachers to teach in the way that they need to teach for every student to be successful. If you take a look at this graph here, there's 10 ways to ensure excellence through equity. This graphic was done by Dr. Pedro Noguera out of UCLA, and he offers 10 ways to pursue excellence through equity. In the interest of time, I will only highlight a few of them and how they apply to FPS. The first one that I would like to highlight is Speak Up for Equity. FPS has incorporated language on equity and diversity in 3 of the 5 2021 board priorities. It's good that they are being shared at each board meeting, which incorporates it into the culture of the district. Perhaps this can be reinforced in the local schools with programming and even signage throughout, such as diversity is our strength, or every student is valued here. So something like that will give us the branding that we're looking for as, say, how much we value equity. The second one is embrace immigrant students and their cultures. Dr. Noguera talks about embracing immigrant students and their cultures. I would add to that and say we need to make spaces to celebrate and affirm all cultures and ethnicities represented in the FPS district. We could be doing things like International or Intercultural Week, as well as being intentional about fusing those things into the curriculum. The last one is align discipline practices to educational goals. This is powerful because rather than approaching discipline with an exclusively punitive approach, we can continue to have restorative focus and be intentional about using disciplinary practices to help achieve educational goals. So again, as I was doing my research, I was looking at some data for Farmington Public Schools that really caught my attention. So I was looking at the MSTEP 2018-2019 MSTEP scores and looking at hiring and retaining teachers that reflect diversity. If you take a look at this chart here, this is the 2018-2019 MSTEP scores, particularly for math. I highlighted some of the areas that I'm gravely concerned about. If you look at the 5th and 6th grade, you can see that there was a huge decline in the amount of students that were proficient. But I'm also alarmed about the Black and African American students. If you look at 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, they're all below 40%. That's alarming to me. So it made me think a little bit. So I had to say, okay, what's going on here? Why are these numbers so low? And no, this is not cohort data. This is just by grade right now. I will dig into cohort data later, at a later time, to see exactly how we go from this point to where we are here. So the first thing I would do is I would recommend an audit of the current and 5th, 6th grade curriculum. It may be necessary to also review the transition from elementary to middle school to see if we could better prepare our students. One example that I could say for when you're looking at data like this, when I was a principal in Harford County, I did something where I had a 6th grade academy and a 9th grade academy, transition period. So within the 6th grade, I was a middle school principal, so I invited all the 5th grade teachers that were in my feeder pattern to come to the middle school and work with the 6th grade teachers on those particular subject areas. I did the same thing for the high school. So the 8th grade teachers went over to the 9th grade. So we looked at our beginning of the year data, end of the year data, and beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year data. So when they sat down to align their lessons, they made sure, first of all, it was aligned to the state standards, but also they aligned themselves to make sure that they are teaching the right things at the right time. So the sequence may be off, because something is going on here, and I really need to dig deeper into it, find out why are our 5th, 6th, and 7th graders struggling so much in math, okay? I also took a look at recruiting, hiring, developing, and retaining high-quality staff that reflects diversity. As I stated earlier, it is commendable that the district has prioritized equity and inclusion, as evident by heading taken from 2021 board priorities. This report indicates that there is room for improvement with regard to diversity in the overall FPS staff. Of the 2,209 FPS staff in 2016, because this survey was done in 2016, I haven't seen one recent, 82% were white. The breakdown reveals that 75% of administrators and 90% of teachers were white, while less than 2% of administrators and less than 2% of teachers were Latino, and just under 22% of administrators were Black, which is commendable, but less than 6% of our teaching staff were Black, which is low. When we consider the racial and cultural makeup of the district, knowing that students need to see themselves represented in the faculty and staff of the district, this lets us know that this is an area where targeted recruitment is needed. In my past jobs, or my past jobs that I had, I was always a part of the recruitment team. And being a part of the recruitment team, we had Diversity, we look for diversity, and we targeted diversity to bring into our schools. I was fortunate enough as a principal to go to those recruitment fairs. We went to historically black colleges and universities to make sure that we were attracting those candidates. We did things such as have, at a career fair, we'll give you an advanced contract, but we also had a target of the people that we want to look at. And I also believe that principals should be involved in the recruitment process, because who better to sell their school other than the principal? So that's something I think we should look at. Ensuring equitable practices. These are practices for teachers in their classroom. When using equity to create an inclusive classroom, these components should be considered. Remember that every child is different and has unique needs. Evaluate any challenges that students face, and if needed, offer support or resources. Cultivate an environment in your classroom where every student feels heard. Encourage them to speak out against unfairness and let you know if they're facing any hardships at home or in class. Parent engagement is particularly helpful. It's a particularly helpful way to resolve challenges involving equity. Keep open communication with parents and encourage them to volunteer or attend school events to be involved with their students' education. Provide equity training in schools for faculty so teachers know how to resolve common barriers. Add diversity and inclusion activity as well as lessons against prejudice to your school curriculum so every student feels like they belong. This goes to student voice. Build equity in the classroom by promoting the voices of our students, or your students, but I'm going to say our students. Seek out the perspective of students who don't share as much, and make sure that the outgoing students don't dominate. Find ways for students to offer input in different ways. Implement the feedback students give. When students see that you value their input and take it seriously, they understand that their voices and opinions matter. Every student has a unique experience and perspective. Harness them. In closing, surrounding communities benefit from equity in schools. I'm sorry, I'm trying to move this around and it won't move. I just lost it. Okay. I'm sorry, I can't read my slide, so let me go to my backup here. Always got to have a backup. Surrounding communities benefit from equity in schools as well. Equity is linked to stronger social cohesion, meaning that individuals connect with each other better and are more compassionate. It also leads to long-term economic growth. This means that promoting equity in schools can be one of the best and most effective social investments for higher test scores, better health, stronger social atmosphere, longer life, and economic growth. That concludes my presentation today, and are there any questions?
Thank you so much for that presentation. And welcome back to our district. We're going to start our round of questioning now, and I'm going to go first. You had the opportunity today, Dr. Rudolph, to tour the district and meet with some of our stakeholders. What stood out for you about that experience?
The first thing that stood out to me was the cleanliness of the buildings. The buildings were immaculate. The principals that I met with, they were so happy and just so enthused to be working in the district, and they said nothing but good things about the district. I even peeked my head into a couple classrooms and spoke to a couple kids, and the kids are so happy to be there. So when you see a committed staff like that, principals and teachers, it just brings a joy to your heart to see that kids are really enjoying school, and I want to be a part of that. I really do. I mean, I was just so joyed to see everyone just so ready. We were doing school. We weren't playing school. We were actually doing school. And it just felt good to have kids in the building as well as their administrators and their teachers working hard. No one was playing around. Everyone was doing their curriculum work and moving the students forward in their achievement. So that was a joy for me.
Thank you.
If you found yourself in a disagreement with a board member or board members on a specific issue, how would you proceed?
Well, we can agree to disagree, but it'll be respectful. If I had a disagreement with a board member or the board in general, I think we would go into private session and talk about those things, what our disagreements are, so that we can all come back on one page to find out, okay, it's okay to agree to disagree, but I'm not going to have a public spectacle on national TV or local TV arguing with a board member. So we're going to have a respectful conversation to make sure that we're all understanding one another, and then we could come back and be on the same page.
Thank you for providing your 100-day plan. Could you summarize that for the board and for those who are listening for us, please?
Sure. My 100-day plan basically is a listening tour. So I need to go meet with teacher groups, students, parents, administrators, union people, all the the bargaining unions, the community, business leaders. So I'm just on a listening tour to see what people say is working and what's not working with the district. I'm also going to look at doing a curriculum audit, a technology audit, a financial audit, as well as a human resources audit, because I want to make sure that we are in line for everything that we're supposed to be doing, and it's going to work for us in this district. So that's basically a summary of it. It goes into a lot of greater detail of how I'm going to do things or when I'm going to do things and who I'm going to do those things with. But for the most part, it's a listening tour. I'm going around in the community to listen, to make sure I hear the voices of Farmington Public School District.
You talked a lot about what you've seen and your experiences. Can you describe your vision of the culture and climate that you want in Farmington Public Schools?
The vision in terms of culture and climate that I would like to see is one that we all respect one another. We're all honest with one another, and we're all transparent with one another. That is my vision of the culture that I would like to see here. I think we have to be respectful, honest with one another, and transparent. And also, the vision is we need to have those hard conversations. And when we have those hard conversations, we should be able to, again, agree to disagree, but in a respectful manner.
Can I take this off?
Yes.
Okay, my question to you is, tell me a time when a situation happened when you would have to hold a particular staff member accountable.
Well, I have to hold staff members accountable every day, but I would tell you one of the times that I really had to hold a staff member accountable, it was back then when I was a principal. I had hired a special ed teacher. She was dynamic at first, and then the point came she wasn't coming to work, she wasn't teaching the curriculum, she was doing her own thing. So at that point in time, I had to put her on a plan of assistance for support. We went through the plan of assistance, we built the plan of assistance together for the support that she needed, but she didn't follow through on it. So at the end of the year, her evaluation spoke to that, and I had to release the teacher at that point in time. It's always hard to release someone because it's a personal thing when you do that. So that was a hard situation for me because I really liked this teacher, and the kids really liked her, but she was not benefiting our students one bit. So I had to release her at that point in time.
Thank you.
Dr. Rudolph, FPS students feel connected to schools beyond the traditional academic areas, including athletics, the arts, and other student activities. How have you created and sustained opportunities for students so they can maintain and grow these connections?
So first of all, I believe in the arts. I believe in sports. I believe in band. I'm a band geek myself, okay? So in college, I was a band geek. I was a head drum major at a HBCU. That's a historically black college and university. So I understand where those connections come from. I understand that social aspect of the arts. So I would always want to create a culture in the district that we respect the arts just as much as we respect core classes. And I would entice students to want to take those art classes. And if we could find more art classes for them, let's do that with their voice. Because they may say, Dr. Rudolph, we want to do X, Y, and Z. Let's find a way to do that so that they can consistently use their creative minds.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Rudolph. What is your knowledge of equal opportunity schools, which is EOS, Avid, and other programs designed to help address opportunity gaps and/or support underrepresented students in higher level courses? Where have you leveraged these in the past? So, are you familiar with Avid?
I am.
Okay, good.
I am familiar with AVID. I haven't heard the term equal opportunity schools, but just by what it says, equal opportunity schools, I think I want to say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's providing equal opportunity or equitable opportunity for students. In terms of AVID, I'm going to pull this out a little bit. So I was an AVID school in Baltimore. So I was recognized as an AVID school-wide site of distinction by growing the program participant from 4% to 14%. I'm a true advocate of AVID. I think it works. I think it gives students multiple opportunities, as well as prepares them for college and career readiness. When I first was in Baltimore County at the school, the middle school, there weren't a lot of kids of color in the AVID program. So what I did was I personally went around and recruited kids to get in the program because I wanted them to take advantage of what AVID stood for and how they could use AVID to their benefit. Once we started putting kids in the AVID program, you start seeing students feel better about themselves. Not only that, you start seeing academic achievement go up because they're getting the support and the skills necessary to move forward. So I'm 100% behind AVID, and I would love to have those programs throughout the whole district, not just in certain schools, because I would like to give every student that opportunity to experience what an AVID program could do for them.
Dr. Rudolph, I'm sorry? Did you have a follow-up?
Can I have one more question?
Sure.
I don't have a follow-up, but I do have one more question.
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
My last question is, could you speak to how you would create systems for equity and innovation?
Yes. First of all, I think every student should be, let me start over. I think teachers should be creative and have the autonomy to be innovative in their classrooms, number one. I think students should be able to be innovative in their learning. I don't believe that students learn one way. So I think we have to create systems to allow students to feel safe in their classrooms. So once we create those systems and having students feel safe in the classroom, I think innovations can take its place at that point in time because, therefore, I'm not afraid to jump out or afraid to think outside the box. So we create those systems, and we create those systems within the classrooms. I don't have a particular system in mind, but I know that we have to start with the respect of each other and allow our kids to have a voice so that they can say, okay, I made a mistake. So what? No big deal. But I learned from the mistake, and I did it in my own creative or innovative way. But we have to give teachers that opportunity as well to be creative and be innovative how they deliver the instruction.
Thank you.
Dr. Blau.
As a follow-up to Ms. Fox's question and your answer, what are some of the things in K-12 public education that you feel stand in the way of us achieving the kind of classroom and school environments of which you speak? And what are some ideas you have for what we might do differently?
One of the things, or one of the barriers that I feel that stands in the way is actually funding. The way that we're funded here in Michigan is either state or legislative or through property taxes. Everyone does not have the same property tax value or the property tax that they pay. So therefore, when we're trying to fund programs, we have to be very strategic on how we use our funds to fund programs for our students in an equitable way. I think one of the solutions, or part of the solution that we do, is we have to brainstorm to see what's best for our students, what's best for our teachers in terms of professional development, and then look at programs that are going to benefit both, but more so benefit the students so that we know that we are giving them everything that they need to be successful. So the whole thing about the funding, budgeting, is a big issue across the country. And I don't know how to solve that problem yet, but I will do everything I possibly can to remain financially stable in this district.
Mr. Walker.
We've had here in our district over the past few years some high-profile situations that were unpleasant. Can you talk about any kind of crisis or unpleasant situation that went beyond the classroom, went beyond the school, where you had to engage the community? How did you handle it? What was the outcome?
The biggest crisis that I think I faced was some gang-related activity in a school when I was in Maryland. No one got killed, but some people got seriously hurt. And the thing was that I had to actually meet with the gang members to try to calm the situation down before it actually came into the building. I was scared because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Although I'm from Detroit, I'm trying to put this tough exterior up. But I'm talking about Bloods and Crips in a middle school setting. I even went to the point to say, I would call the head of your gang member, or the head of the gang, to make sure that this is squashed in the school. After having a conversation with the gang leaders in the school, we were able to come to an agreement that they will not bring their drama into the school, and they will not have any gang affiliation in the schools. Having that conversation with two young African-American males, it was rewarding, but it was also scary, because when you're talking to gang members, and they're young gang members, and their head is somewhere else, you don't know what they're going to do. But luckily enough for me, my students trusted me enough to listen to me. It even got to a point that if they knew some gang activity was going to happen outside of the school, I gave them my personal cell phone number because I wanted to protect them. I had their parents' number on speed dial because I wanted to protect those children. So when things started to go down, they would call me, Dr. Rudolph, this is about to go down, and I don't know how to get out of it. And I would call their parents and say, hey, your son is about to get involved in something very serious. You need to go check on him because he just called me. So those type deals, those type of events are scary and they're unsafe to everyone. So you have to be strong in who you are to approach those type things and to try to squash it before it gets too serious for anybody else in the school. So that's what I did.
Mrs. Heinrich.
Thank you. This past year has been one unlike any other. Obviously, the schools had to shut down unprepared, transition. Farmington School District has been unique in the fact that we've had a new superintendent and then, resignation. We have new members in our cabinet. We have an interim superintendent. And through all of this, the school district has figured out how to work together, and we've been moving forward, and now we're making another change, bringing a new leader into the team. And so how are you going to work with all of these changes and these things in place and tie things together and you know, what is your plan for coming in and into the situation? And we're going into a situation in the fall where we're planning for what we hope it's going to be, but there's still so many uncertainties. And so can you just talk about how you vision yourself coming in and working in this environment?
Okay, so first of all, for me, we're going to have to heal the land, okay? And the only way we're going to be able to do that is through relationship building, getting understanding, so why people are hurt, other than COVID, because COVID was devastating to a lot of us, and we all suffered from it in one way or the other. So we have to tie, for our students, we have to look into their social-emotional learning. We may have to have counseling sessions, psychology, social work, whatever we need to do to heal those students first. Then we need to work on the adults, because the adults need healing as well. And I think by me, who I am with my personality, I consider myself a healer. And I'll give you an example. I work with 24 principals in the district that I work with now. And they were under emergency management for over 15 years. So here I come, they coming through emergency manager, we got a new superintendent, they're afraid of everything, they don't trust anyone. So I had to build trust with my team in order for them to perform in the way that they need to perform for our students. So I'm coming in to build that trust, I'm coming in to build those relationships, I'm coming in to listen to people, and I'm coming in to offer support in the best way that I possibly can as the superintendent of this district.
Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, President Weems. During this pandemic, many of us know that we, as people of color, also suffered a pandemic, which is systemic racism. Systemic racism does start in our schools. During that time, we had, during the death of George Floyd, 170 students from our district of all nationalities, which, as you know, we are very diverse, with over 87 different languages in our community. Our students spoke out, and they spoke to this school district, and they spoke to this school board, asking for help, not just African Americans, but Latino community, as well as the Middle Eastern community. Our students spoke out, and they needed to hear from the powers that be. What would you do if we put you in as the next superintendent? How would you address those issues with our students that are from the LGBTQ community, our Latino community, our African American community, and so forth and so on? Thank you.
So, looking at our community as a whole, again, the death of George Floyd weighed heavily on a lot of us, weighed heavily on me as a black male, not knowing if if I get stopped by a police officer, what's going to happen? Am I going to make it home to my family? So when you look at the community as a whole and the healing that needs to happen, the only way we're going to be able to heal from things like that is we have to have conversations. Do I support students' voice? Absolutely. I think it's a part of democracy that our students have to have a voice. And if we don't listen to their voice, what good are we as adults? So I want to listen to those student voices to see what it is that we can do, because I'm not going to have all the answers. We're not going to have all the answers collectively. But it's very important for us to listen and come together to find out what the answers are going to be so we can support our students. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen. I'm going to seek advice. I'm going to come to you. I'm going to go to my staff and say, hey, we got this group of students that's hurting. How can we heal them? How do we hear them? So that we make sure that we're moving them in the right direction, because guess what? If they're broken, they're not going to learn anything. If we're broken, we're not going to be able to perform our duties. So we have to come together as a community to make sure that we're taking care of each other every day. Because if we don't, what are we here for? So to answer your question, I'm just going to listen and provide services or find the support that I need to find to make sure that every student and every staff member in this district is feeling comfortable within themselves and within this community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rich?
Thank you. Outside of this being a new position for you, what potential concerns do you have about this position in Farmington Public Schools?
I prepared my whole life, or my whole career, to be a superintendent. When I walked into education, I said, I'm going to be a superintendent one day, not knowing it may be Farmington or wherever it may be. But the one thing that would be challenging to me is to really dive into the politics of the community, dive into the politics of the board. And so when I dive into those things, I have to really come in with an open mind to figure out what's right, what's wrong. I'm going to always make the right decision for our district, but just to get involved in the politics of it, that's difficult for any superintendent because we don't know. So that's why we're going to take the time to get to know you individually and get to know you as a board so that I can have a different understanding of what the power struggles may be in the community, as well as how we function as a board and superintendent relationship. So that's one of the most difficult things that I think, even when I talk to my superintendent friends, my colleagues that are superintendent, they tell me all the time, Lawrence, you just never know what the politics are going to be. So you have to get ready and embrace those politics and do everything you can to get a better understanding of it so that you can face anything head on, okay?
Mr. Walker?
I have a question with a follow-up, if I may. Can you talk to us about your experience or your philosophy as it relates to international baccalaureate programming, as well as career and technical education programming? And then I have a follow-up to that.
Sure. So International Baccalaureate is a great program for our students to advance. Going through the process is very difficult and lengthy. When I was a middle school principal, we were in Harford County, we were going through part of the program for the middle school because we wanted to attach the middle school to the high school International Baccalaureate program. So we started with the high school and got them on their way, but we wanted to attach a little bit to the middle school so that we could have a part of that as well. So going through the process was a long process. So the high school got their International Baccalaureate program, and then we started filtering those programs down to the middle school. So I'm a complete advocate for International Baccalaureate programs. CTE programs, career and technical education. Those things, it's important. Every student is not going to go to college, but we want to make sure every student has a career, and we want to make sure that every student is ready to have a career when they leave high school. So I believe in CTE. We all gonna need a plumber someday or another, right? So why not give the students the training that they need so they can have a certificate, as well as they could say, I may go to college, but I've got a backup plan. I have a job that could pay me $70,000 a year if I go to CTE. So I think we should be pushing CTE more, as well as going to college. I would love to see all of our students say, okay, I'm going to college, but I also have a CTE background as well. That's just going to make them more marketable for whatever they decide to do. So I'm on board with CTE, and I would like to increase the CTE programs as much as we possibly can.
So my follow-up to that question, and based on your response, how do you take all of that and form it into this response, or the response to this question? What to you does college ready mean?
College ready to me means that you have acquired the necessary skills to go to the next level. That doesn't necessarily mean that you got to take trigonometry and all of those other things, but you have to have a solid foundation in order to go to college. And I'll tell you, I didn't think I was smart enough to go to college. I didn't have the confidence enough to go to college. I told the story earlier. I wanted to go to the Marines. My mother said, no. So I thought I was being rebellious. I said, okay, since you're not going to allow me to go to the Marines and do what I want to do, because we didn't have CTE, it wasn't as rapid as it was when I was younger or when I was in school. So I applied to a couple of schools, and I told my mother, I said, the first school that accepts me, that's where I'm going. Hampton University happened to be the first school that accepted me. So I thought I was being rebellious, but didn't know I was doing something good for myself. I thought I was hurting my mother because I was leaving her, but I was doing something good for myself. So I ended up going to Hampton University, and I was successful there. But I think college readiness means it's not based on a standardized test. I think it's more so based on the foundation that you get when you're going through K through 12 and learning how to study and learning different concepts and meeting the standards, but not necessarily saying, oh, I got to have 1,200 on the SAT in order to say that I'm college and career ready. That's not true. Look at me. I'm not going to tell you what I scored, but I'm not going to tell you what I scored, but I got into college. And I was successful once I got there. So I think we have to do something different. I think we have to build our students up to let them know, you can go to college. You can do whatever you want to do. But if we don't build them up in the process, or we don't have counselors that are looking out for our students to get them career ready or college ready, we're defeating the purpose. So I've seen counselors I had a counselor that didn't do anything for me in terms of preparing me for college. So now I know that we have to prepare our students, and we have to give them the tools necessary that they need in order to say, I can actually go to college. So my vision behind that is always give the students the opportunity. Let them know exactly what it is that we're asking them to do. Let them know what their opportunities are away from high school. So I think we have to just keep preaching that. And then, most kids today, I don't want to go to college. I don't think college is necessary because the media has said some things like that. But there's nothing better than having an education. No matter what that education is, that education could be college or it could be in your career. But as long as you learn something that has some foundation behind it, I think we can make all of our students successful.
Thank you.
Dr. Rudolph, would you please open your computer? I'm getting feedback that we need to see you on the webinar. It might be too late. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay. If you have an opportunity to dial in, that would be great. We'll give it like 20 seconds. If not, then we'll just move on.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think after the presentation, you just close the computer so the folks on WebEx can't see. They can
Okay,
see
I'm
yours,
back.
which is not a problem.
Am I there now? I'm good?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can see.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All
Mrs.
right.
Heinrich.
Good job problem solving on the fly. That wasn't part of the question. But you kind of segued into this because there's a lot about finding the right fit and the right opportunity in your college experience as far as Marines. Marines wasn't the right choice for you, college was. Farmington has a history of, we have a legacy, we have superintendents where we have buildings named after them. We have principals where at Farmington High School we had, the Barrett hallway kind of thing. And so we have a lot of legacies, a lot of traditions. We've also gone through a lot of superintendents also. And so, all of our candidates that we're interviewing are highly qualified, as are you. And so we're looking for the right fit. So, how do you see yourself as the right fit for our school district and our school board, our community, our school district? What can you say to us, and what can you say to our community to say this is the guy that's gonna be here, stay here, make we want to name a building after our next superintendent. I can't speak. I'm speaking as very idealistic as a new school board member without any experience hiring a superintendent, but it just, just convince us.
Well,
Why
first-
are you the one?
The first thing I would say is, as I said earlier in my interview, I'm looking for one superintendency. I'm not looking to bounce around, go here and there. And as you all learned earlier, my wife already said we're not moving. So so I really don't have a choice. So
Not if you want to stay married.
exactly. So if I am your next superintendent, I want you all to know that I'm very committed to this district, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make this a premier district. In terms of that's my commitment to you. And as long as you will have me, I plan on retiring from this one superintendent position. Legacies are built when people stay a long period of time. I would like for my legacy to be one of a positive nature. So after I met you all and had a day with 3 of you today, I felt more comfortable within myself to say, I think I could fit in there. I felt as though I really fit in here. Going around to the schools, I was able to make great connections with the principals right then and there. And I felt this is a place that I could truly be. I could be a part of this, and I want to be a part of this. And just the welcoming environment or the welcoming that I got today made me really, really think that I could be this person. Now, yes, we have our issues in the community, and we have to address those issues. But I want you to know that whatever challenge comes before me, I'm going to take it head on. I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to take it head on, and I'm going to lead with the courage that I need to lead with and lead the school district so that we make sure that we are a premier school district. We gotta lose the background noise. We got to get rid of the background noise. But we got to solve the problem before we get rid of the background noise. And I'm not afraid to do that. So I will tell you, if you really want change, I'm that person. I've been changing things all of my life, or all of my career life, or pretty much all my life. I've been a change agent. And I'm comfortable with that. I just need the opportunity to be that change agent that we need here in Farmington. So I hope I answered that question.
Mr. Walker.
You mentioned a little earlier about how standardized tests don't always tell the story about a student. Have you given any thought to other alternatives that can be used to measure student proficiency, student growth, especially as they're nearing the end of their academic career within Farmington?
So I'm a person that believes in the growth mindset. So for me, it's not necessary about, well, we play, it's part of school, the testing. But if I could see that students are meeting their standards and they're growing in their knowledge base, that's good for me. That's really good for me. As you can see, colleges are now starting to say, we don't even accept SAT anymore because they want to see the growth in a student. And I would like to see the growth of a student over time. So whatever testing that we're giving or whatever common tests or common quizzes, common assessments that we're giving in the classroom, we should be able to see growth, and we should be able to see students hitting those targets as a growth measure. Not necessarily, I got to get 1,200 on the SAT or 23 on the ACT. We got to get beyond that. We got to teach students have them have the foundation and master the standards. So once they master the standards, then we move them on. So I'm about the growth more so than about just looking at the standardized tests and letting that be the absolute story, because it's not. There are so many other things that are involved with a student growth, socially, emotionally, academically. It's a whole lot of things that help a student grow. And I would like to look at those data points more so than just the one standardized test that someone may have a bad day and didn't test well.
Thank you.
Mrs. Smith.
Thank you. You've covered curriculum, diversity, and so now my question is, Many people in our community have always said that we were top-heavy, which means that we have more people in our central office than need be. So my question to you is, if you were our next superintendent and you saw these concerns, how would you address these issues? And if you saw that you had staff members that were not highly effective, what would your position be as far as taking the next step?
Good question. So in many school districts, you always hear that there's more administrators than we need. As I said earlier, I would do a human resource audit to make sure everyone is doing the job that they're supposed to do, and make sure that we have the roles and responsibility as such so people are not just sitting in a corner collecting the paycheck. So when we do this human resource audit, I'm going to know exactly what we need. I can't make a decision right now and say, oh, I'm just going to come in and change the whole dynamics, because I don't know what those dynamics are right now. But once I look at those dynamics and examine those dynamics, I can say, we need this person here as opposed to what they're doing here. Or we can do something different in this department as opposed to what they're doing now. So that all comes into an assessment period and a needs assessment. We have to do a needs assessment to see who do we really need in our district to move our district forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
Dr. Rudolph, it's my opinion that one of the few positives of dealing with this pandemic is it's brought us to a crossroads in terms of the things that we thought worked and the things we now find no longer work. And it's also introduced a lot of things that we never even thought about using in our way of thinking about education. So to me, the district, as well as the education community as a whole, will find itself at a crossroads in terms of, do we transform or do we stay the course? I'd like to know what your thoughts are around what does transformation for a district look like to you through the lens of what we've experienced over the last, almost 2 years.
As you said, COVID has taught us to look at everything differently. We have to change with the times. So we can't just stay the course, we have to go above the course. And with COVID and with the online learning and things of that nature, whoever knew that every school district in the country would be online learning? That was a hard pill to swallow. Everyone was like, I'm not used to this, I can't do this. This is something new. But we adjusted to the new, okay? So I think we have to keep transforming as we go forward. We have to transform with the times. So whatever those times bring, we have to make sure that we prepare ourselves for those and train our staff to transform with us, because we can't have people that's stuck in one way and think we're going to move a school district this way. So we got to transform together. We got to do our research to find out what it is that we're trying to transform into, and we got to go with the change, because if we don't go with the change, we're going to be left behind. So I just believe that we have to really go with the change and really just think about what that change is and how do we get there, but we have to get there together.
Thank you.
Mr. Rich.
Thank you. Our district is currently in year one of a 5-year strategic plan. How do you see yourself coming into the process should you be selected?
So the first thing is, I've read the strategic plan. I will continue to read the strategic plan. And with the assistance of you all, or I'm assisting you, we're working together to see what's working and what's not working in our strategic plan. And as Mr. Trustee Walker just said, transform. So if we need to transform some things in our strategic plan, I think we come together and make those decisions to see where we need to go based on what's in the strategic plan. Because I'm sure a lot of the 5-year strategic plan didn't cover COVID. didn't cover online learning or virtual learning. So we have to adapt to those things and make sure that we're truly examining our strategic plan and make sure that that strategic plan is relevant to who we are.
Are there, Dr. Blau?
Could you tell us a little bit more about the Student Advocacy Committee that you started?
Sure. So Student Advocacy Committee for me, I started this, it was in John Glenn. A couple kids came to me and said, Dr. Rudolph, we want to meet with you. I said, you do? I said, okay. So who wants to meet with me? They said, it's about 10 of us. I said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start meeting monthly. And my goal, you're going to be the representative of the school. So you're going to come to me and talk to me about any problems or anything that we need to address in the school. I mean, that was so rewarding to me because you never think kids or students have that much to say or they have that much insight. So we were able to start making change based on their voice. And I'm all about that. So I will have a student advocacy committee here. It'll be made up of different people, different race or whatever. It would be very diverse. And I would like to meet with them monthly and just really hear student voices. You may find me going to a school and tell the principal, hey, can you call all your seniors down today? I just feel like I want to talk to them. Because that's just who I am. I'll go into a school building and say, I need to talk to some kids today. Pull some kids for me to talk to, or I'll do an impromptu assembly because I feel as though I want to hear something from our students. And I've done that before when there was bomb threats and things of that nature. Our kids didn't understand where these bomb threats was coming from. So I walked into the school. The next day, I said, we're pausing instruction. I want to have an assembly because I had a very small auditorium. I said, I want to have an assembly from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 1 to 2. They were like, are you crazy? I said, no. I want to hear what my students have to say about these bomb threats that's been going on in the district. So I pulled everybody in, and we had a powwow about it. Then the next thing you know, I'm on News 4 talking about safety and security because they saw that we were having those conversations in our school. So student voice is very important to me, and I'm going to always listen to our students because they are our customers.
Thank you.
Mrs. Smith?
We have a great team in place, Dr. Rudolph, and a number of whom are brand new to their positions and first year in our cabinet. What are your thoughts on working with this team and bringing them together with more growth versus bringing people in on your own, from your own, like bringing in friends?
Well, to answer your question about bringing in friends, I don't just bring in friends. I want to make sure I bring in the right qualified person. So I'm not about, oh, hook me up or bring in this person because you know me. No, if you're not qualified, you're not going to be a part of my team. So to be honest with you, the team that is in place now, I have to observe them and see what they bring to the table. I'm not coming in to Farmington to say, okay, everybody that's on cabinet, you got to go. If I do that, I have no historical knowledge. So I'm out there by myself. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to examine or observe and have conversations with everyone to see where they want to go in the future. Or is this the place for them? Or do we have a shared vision? So those are conversations that I need to have ongoing, but that's not going to be an overnight conversation either, because it takes at least a year to figure out who's really on your team. And then as we're going through the process, we start doing team building activities so that we can truly be a team. Again, I'm not coming here to make those type of drastic changes because I think the district has gone through enough change within a year with how many new board members? 4 new board members and a superintendent that's not here. That's too much. So I'm going to have to adapt to them. Not necessarily that they're going to have to adapt to me, because I need to know who they are and what they bring to the table and how they can teach me run this district better. Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
There's 4 minutes left.
Dr. Rudolph, the superintendent is typically the face of the district. How do you envision yourself being that face of the district, especially as it relates to developing partnerships with businesses in the community to support our educational programs?
So that's a good question. I believe in being visible. I have to be visible in the district. I have to attend meetings. I have to hold meetings, such as a business roundtable. I was talking to one of the parents today during one of the earlier interviews, and she works for the Chamber of Commerce. I said, oh, you're the perfect person that I need to start with, because we need to have a business roundtable to see what the businesses have here and how can they help our school district, as well as how can we produce workers for them, okay? So we need to look at all those things. I told her one of my biggest dreams was that in high school to say, every kid by their 11th grade year, they have an internship somewhere. Because I want to reach out to those businesses to say, hey, I got 25 kids that want to major in engineering. Can we do some mentoring with them so that they can at least come and see what it's like before they make that big decision to go to college and say, I want to be an engineer? So I want to meet with people. I want to build those relationships with people so that we can make sure that we're moving our district in the right direction. And I don't know what resources they may have. They may have some resources that have been untapped. I want to tap into every resource that I possibly can to make our school district better.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We are nearing the end of our time for board questions in the interview process as we approach 9:30. Are there any further questions from the board? I do not see any. This has been a great experience. We appreciate you, Dr. Rudolph, for coming to visit us and for interviewing with us, and obviously for expressing interest in this position. At this time, the interview is now closed, and we appreciate you and want to thank you for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from you very soon with the positive note to say.
We do have a few minutes if you'd like to make any closing comments.
So my closing comments are these. First of all, I want to thank everyone for this opportunity. You didn't have to bring me here, but you did, so you saw something in me. Second of all, I would like to say, if selected for superintendent of this district, I will always show my greatest integrity. I will always be honest with you all. I will always lead with courage. I will always lead with conviction. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that we as a board and superintendent have a great relationship, as well as do everything in my power to make sure that Farmington Public Schools is not just a premier district in Michigan, but we are being recognized nationwide. That is my goal, and that's what I offer to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rudolph.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are now ready to proceed, I believe, to public comment. There are no public comment. I'm going to repeat again. This is our public comment portion of the meeting, and we have no public comment. We are now closing public comment. Just pausing, just to make sure. All right, thank you, Mrs. Buckley. This concludes the interview, and this now concludes the meeting. We have no further agenda items, so we are now adjourned. Thank you.